on a day meant for joy. Soojin's life unravels in a whirlwind of heartbreak. Soojin was radiant as she stepped into her apartment, cradling the small positive pregnancy test as if it were the key to happiness. In her mind, she envisioned a future filled with laughter alongside her husband, Min-jae. But the moment she opened the door, that dream shattered. The sight of Min-jae entangled with another woman, the atmosphere thick with infidelity and betrayal, paralyzed her. It was in this instant, under the glaring contrast of her walloping hopes and the cold reality, that she felt both elated and utterly crushed. In the days that followed, Soojin struggled to navigate her broken heart while grappling with the news of her pregnancy. The weight of betrayal pressed down heavily on her, making each breath feel laborious. With every glance at the baby's room she had so lovingly prepared, conflicting feelings surged within her. Min-jae wouldn't be the man she had thought he was. Instead of affection, he had chosen the easy escape of another woman, Yeon-hee, someone with her own pain of raising a sick child. Just as despair began to swallow her, Kang-hoon, the enigmatic CEO of Soojin's design firm, knocked on her door. His presence, a stark contrast to Min-jae's betrayal, shifted the atmosphere from strife to warmth. Kang-hoon had always admired Soojin's talent from afar, but now he stood before her, offering support in her darkest hour. Rather than delving into corporate matters, his genuine concern shone through as he urged her to take care of herself, holding an umbrella against the storm of emotions lashed against her soul. As the days turned into weeks, Soojin began to rebuild her life with Kang-hoon's encouragement. She took on new challenges at work, transforming her pain into creativity. Together they worked late into the night, crafting a design exhibition to showcase her talent. In these moments, laughter and camaraderie blossomed, dimming the shadows of her past. She found herself confiding in Kang-hoon about her struggles, her hopes for her unborn child, and the specter of Min-jae that loomed over her heart. Kang-hoon listened, his eyes reflecting a mix of empathy and admiration, making her feel seen for the first time in a long while. Yet as Soojin's world expanded, Min-jae stepped back in, like a ghost haunting her dreams. He expressed remorse and guilt, pulling at the strings of the love that had once bound them. Yet every time she looked into his eyes, images of betrayal and pain resurfaced. Meanwhile, Yeon-hee's struggles with her sick child struck a chord deep within, creating a confusing blend of sympathy and resentment. The lines between past and future blurred, leaving Soojin in a constant battle between love lost and the possibility of new love. At a critical moment during her exhibition, with the crowd buzzing and her heart racing, tragedy struck. A sudden health scare threatened her pregnancy, prompting the very people she had distanced herself from to converge at her bedside, Min-jae and Kang-hoon. The tension in the room was palpable, as both men grappled with their feelings for her. Soojin felt torn, but she rediscovered her strength as she realized that she needed to reclaim her narrative. In the raw intimacy of her vulnerability, everything shifted. She shared her story with Min-jae and, for the first time, expressed the pain he had inflicted. The air thickened with emotion as she also acknowledged the bond Min-jae had with Yeon-hee. Meanwhile, Kang-hoon stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers, silently proclaiming his unwavering support and devotion. In the swirling chaos of emotions, it became clear that Soojin had options. She possessed the power to define her own path forward. With energy rekindled, Soojin emerged from her health scare with newfound clarity. Reaffirming her commitment to herself and her child, she chose to embrace the love around her. The days of letting past pain dictate her choices were over. As Soojin stepped into her own light, Kang-hoon was there, a steady presence committed to walking beside her. As the final strains of music filled the air at her art exhibition, Soojin found herself caught between the familiar warmth of Min-jae and the promising new world Kang-hoon represented. With a heart full of hope, she took a deep breath, ready to step forward, confident that the best was yet to come. In this heartfelt tale of resilience, betrayal, and unexpected support, Soojin proved that love, in all its forms, can heal wounds. Join us for the next episode to see how their journeys intertwine, revealing secrets and igniting romance amidst challenges. Subscribe now and don't miss the emotional roller coaster ahead. Betrayed by love, guided by hope. A new life blossomed amidst the ruins of betrayal. Soojin's heart raced as she stood in the doorway of her apartment, clutching the positive pregnancy test tightly in her hand. It was a moment filled with dreams of joy, family, and a bright future with her husband, Min Jae. But the scene that greeted her shattered those dreams in an instant. There, in their bedroom, was Min Jae, wrapped in the arms of another woman, laughter echoing in a space that had once been a sanctuary. Clarity struck like thunder. Her husband was unfaithful, and her heart thudded painfully in her chest. Days turned into a haze of sorrow and confusion. As Soojin grappled with the heartbreak of betrayal and the excitement of impending motherhood, she felt torn. Min Jae's infidelity with Yeon Hee, a woman grappling with her own battles of raising a sick child, blended emotions of anger and sympathy within her. Should she harbor resentment towards a family in need? As Soojin wrestled with these feelings, her world felt increasingly isolating. Then, unexpected support arrived in the form of Kang Hoon, the distinguished CEO of the design firm where Soojin worked. He appeared at her doorstep, with a genuine concern etched on his handsome features. "You don't have to go through this alone," he said, kindness radiating from him as he offered a shoulder to lean on. His presence breathed warmth into the cold air around her. While others closed their doors, Kang Hoon stood there, ready to help reassemble the pieces of her shattered life. As weeks passed, anonymity turned into genuine connection. With Kang Hoon's encouragement, Soojin threw herself into her work, channeling her pain and creativity into a design exhibition she never thought she would have the strength to organize. Late nights echoed with laughter and the gentle comfort of camaraderie as they crafted a showcase, illuminating the beauty of her talent against the dark backdrop of her heartbreak. His soft words of affirmation lifted her spirits, making her feel truly appreciated for the first time. But just as she began to find solace in this new journey, Min Jae emerged from the shadows, like a specter from her past. He pleaded with her for forgiveness, his voice draped in regret. "I'm sorry, Soojin. I didn't mean to be the man who betrayed you." But every promise felt hollow, overshadowed by the weight of his lies. The contrast between Min Jae's numb pleas for reconciliation and Kang Hoon's unwavering support put her at a crossroads. She found herself torn between the man who had once promised her forever and the one who now showed her what true love could be. A fateful encounter at the exhibition forced the tension to a boiling point. It was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it turned into chaos as Min Jae confronted Kang Hoon. "Stay away from her," Min Jae stormed, his fury palpable. But Kang Hoon stood his ground, his eyes fierce yet calm. "Soojin deserves more than a man who breaks trust. She deserves to be happy." Those words broke through the noise, striking the heart of Soojin, poisoning everything she thought she knew. Yet reality shifted when she learned about Yeon Hee's struggles with her sick child. Staring at the photos on her phone, Soojin felt torn again. Min Jae loved someone too, someone in need, battling their own afflictions. In an emotional moment, she faced Kang Hoon, her voice trembling. "How can I move on when I know another woman needs him?" The turmoil inside her twisted painfully, yet Kang Hoon's steady gaze held her firm. "You can't let guilt decide your path, Soojin. You're creating a life that deserves to thrive too." The climax of Soojin's emotional journey culminated when she found herself in the hospital, her own health wounding her spirit as she fought to carry her child. Min Jae and Kang Hoon arrived, their hearts juxtaposed in the turmoil of caring for her. The uncertainty in her heart crystallized in that moment, laying bare the conflict between past love and potential new beginnings. With tears streaming down her cheeks, she realized the power of love is not ownership, but rather the choice to be free. Motivated by newfound strength and clarity, Soojin took a bold step. "I forgive you, Min Jae, but I cannot return to the past. I must choose a path that leads me to my own happiness." The words hung in the air, sparking an awareness she had long denied. She was ready to embrace motherhood alone, or with Kang Hoon's support, freed from the ties of heartbreak. As she stepped out of the hospital, renewed in spirit and hope, Kang Hoon was there, waiting. He took her hand, and warmth coursed through her. The journey ahead was uncertain, yet together they would carve a new path filled with love, understanding, and connection. Join us for the next episode of this journey, as Sujin learns to navigate her new life filled with love, challenges, and unexpected twists. Subscribe now and don't miss the emotional roller coaster ahead. Betrayal and new beginnings. A single moment shattered her world, her husband and his deceit standing stark against her hopes. Sujin stood frozen at the entrance of her apartment, her heart pounding in disbelief. The excitement of discovering her pregnancy had been replaced by the gut-wrenching sight of Min-jae entwined with another woman. This devastating revelation felt like a sharp knife, splitting her dreams apart. She felt the weight of betrayal hang heavily in the air, a suffocating reality she couldn't escape. Days turned to weeks as Sujin navigated the storm of emotions raging inside her. Each morning she awoke with the painful reminder of her husband's infidelity. She felt isolated, lost in a whirlwind of heartache while trying to prepare for the arrival of a child. Min-jae's absence left a chasm in their home that echoed with the ghosts of happy moments they once shared. On the cusp of motherhood, her hopes were overshadowed by feelings of rage and sadness, especially when she learned about Yeon-hee, the woman who now filled the void left by Min-jae's deceit. But fate intervened when Kang-hoon, the CEO of her design firm, unexpectedly knocked on her door one evening. His presence brought a warmth and reassurance she hadn't expected. "You shouldn't have to face this alone," he said, his voice calm and sincere. It was a simple gesture, yet it ignited a flicker of hope in her heart. While other doors had been shut in her face, Kang-hoon offered a path forward, a chance to rediscover herself amidst the chaos. With Kang-hoon by her side, Sujin felt the burdens of her past begin to lift, if only slightly. They spent long nights working on her art exhibition, a project she initially thought she'd abandon. Each time she laughed with him, sharing stories and dreams, she felt a piece of her old self returning. In his company, she could breathe, an escape from her troubles. Slowly, they built an unexpected friendship, bridging the gap between their contrasting. His lavish lifestyle and her modest roots rendered them unlikely. But just as she began to find her footing, Min-jae re-entered her, desperate, never meant to hurt his eyes. In that moment, the air crackled with her rise with, "You think sorry will erase the pain?" She fired back, the words spilling out. They had shared love and promises, yet those had all turned to ash with one betrayal. The emotional climax unfolded in the art gallery, packed with people during her opening night. Min-jae confronted Kang-hoon again, this time more aggressively. "Stay away from her. You think you can play the hero?" Min-jae's voice echoed through the crowd, drawing everyone's gaze. But Kang-hoon remained placid, a protective fortress for Sujin. "I'm not trying to take her from you. She deserves the truth, not your lies," Kang-hoon replied, his calm demeanor contrasting sharply with Min-jae's desperation. Sujin stood between them, heart racing. "Enough!" she shouted, feeling empowered for the first time. "I am tired of being a battleground for both of you. I need to find my own way." The room fell silent, the weight of her declaration hanging in the air. In that moment, she felt a surge of strength washing over her. She would no longer be defined by another's choices. The story turned once more when, in a startling twist, Sujin learned that Yeon-hee's child was gravely ill in the hospital. The empathy surged within her, mingling with pain. Here she was, bound by the weight of love lost, but confronted with the harsh reality of someone else's suffering. During a quiet moment, she confided in Kang-hoon, her voice trembling. "How can I let go when I know another mother is fighting for her child, too?" He reached for her hand, a silent promise of understanding. Healing comes in many forms, Sujin. Sometimes it means embracing the future, despite the past. The emotional release came when Sujin took a trip to the hospital, not to confront Min-jae, but to understand. Sitting in the waiting room, she encountered Yeon-hee, whose exhaustion mirrored her own. "You're fighting too, aren't you?" Sujin admitted, vulnerability replacing hostility. Their eyes crinkled with shared understanding. "I only want what's best for my child," Yeon-hee whispered, her voice breaking. In that instant, Sujin grasped the profound connections between their lives that transcended betrayal, the embodiment of motherhood. As the story culminated, Sujin stood strong, confident in her choices. She returned to her world, bursting with creativity and compassion. Surrounded by the artworks that symbolized her journey, she felt ready to embrace her future, while Kang-hoon's steady presence beside her became a cornerstone of support. In the firm grip of hope, Sujin decided to redefine her story, filled with aspirations and acceptance. Love was no longer a painful past. It was the blossoming future she was willing to embrace with Kang-hoon, who saw her for who she was, not just as a victim of betrayal. Join us for the next episode of this journey, where Sujin navigates love, new challenges, and emotional twists with the heartwarming support of those around her. Subscribe now to experience every moment of growth and romance. Love amidst chaos. She found out she was pregnant the same day she discovered her husband's betrayal. For Sujin, life had always been a delicate balance, but that day brought everything crashing down. The silence in their apartment felt suffocating as she stood frozen in the doorway, clutching the small white stick that declared her hopes for a blooming future as a mother. What should have been a moment of joy transformed as she witnessed Min-jae tangled in the arms of another woman, laughter and intimacy radiating in a space that had once held only love for her. Days blended into a haze of confusion and pain, with Sujin carrying the weight of her pregnancy alongside the burden of betrayal. She couldn't shake the image of Min-jae's betrayal, and every time she felt the flutter of her unborn child, a wave of sadness washed over her. The bitter truth was that Min-jae was now entwined in a new life with Yeon-hee, the woman with whom he had chosen to share not just his body, but a future of shared dreams, a future that should have belonged to her. In this fog of despair, an unexpected ray of light emerged in the form of Kang-hoon, her boss, a wealthy and charismatic CEO. One evening, he stopped by her apartment to check in. "You shouldn't have to bear this alone," he said tenderly, concern shadowing his usually confident demeanor. His presence was a juxtaposition to the hurt that lingered in her heart. Here stood a man who offered not just sympathy, but also genuine warmth, a kindness that pierced through the cold despair that had taken residence within her. As the weeks passed, Sujin found herself working closely with Kang-hoon on a project for her design firm. He took her under his wing, encouraging her to channel her hurt into art. In the vibrant colors of her creations, she glimpsed hope. Late nights in the office turned into shared dinners, laughter, and heartfelt conversations. Every brushstroke of paint felt like a step away from the darkness that surrounded her, the flame of creativity slowly reigniting her spirit. Yet as their friendship deepened, boundaries blurred. Sujin found herself drawn to Kang-hoon, not just as her boss, but as a man who understood her struggles like no other. But just as she turned towards this new possibility, Min-jae barged into her life, shattering her fragile peace. "I miss you, Sujin. I need you back," he pleaded one afternoon, desperation etched on his face. Caught off guard, her heart wavered. Memories flooded back, the weight of shared dreams, the warmth of his embrace, and the love they once had. "Sujin, you've always been there for me. I can change, I will change," Min-jae insisted, but his promises felt like sand slipping through her fingers. She felt so conflicted. How could she deny the family they were supposed to be? The turning point came when an unexpected twist unfolded. While working late one night, Kang-hoon stepped away for a phone call, leaving Sujin alone in the brightly lit office. As she rummaged through her sketches, she stumbled across a photo of a sick child, Yeon-hee's child, posted online by a supportive family. A sudden pang shot through her heart, realizing her own grievances were small compared to the battles others fought daily. The weight of guilt crashed over her, and she was torn between the realization of her own burgeoning feelings for Kang-hoon and her lingering ties to Min-jae. "Why am I hesitant to embrace this? A new life awaits, but I am still shackled to the past," she confessed to Kang-hoon later that evening, pouring her heart out as the moonlight bathed their surroundings. Her words hung in the air, heavy with a longing for clarity. Kang-hoon's eyes softened as he reached for her hand. "Love is not just about holding on, Sujin. It's also about letting go when necessary. You deserve to find happiness. The sincerity in his voice ignited something deep inside her, fanning the flame of hope that had begun to flicker anew. In a moment of revelation, Sujin faced her fears, gathering the courage to break free from Minja's pull. "I can't keep living in your shadow and hold on to the past," she told him firmly, voice steady. "My family is what I make of it now, and my son deserves a mother who is fearless." The story reached a climax with the arrival of her baby, a moment when all her fears were laid bare. Surrounded by hospital lights and soft beeping machines, Sujin held her newborn, her heart swelling with love and promise. In that blissful moment, she felt free. Min-jae and Yeon-hee were drifting farther away, the ties that once bound them diminishing with each passing second. Kang-hoon stood by her side, patiently waiting for her to embrace the beauty of life more fully. As he held her gaze, something shifted, igniting a spark of hope for what could be. "I'll always be here for you and your child, Sujin," he promised, a quiet strength radiating from him. Sujin smiled, finally embracing the grace of new beginnings. "And I will let you in." Join their journey of love, resilience, and uncharted paths as Sujin discovers not only her strength, but the beauty of being loved and loving in return. Subscribe now for the next episode of their touching tale and experience every moment filled with emotion and romance. Shattered dreams, new beginnings. The joy of a new life came crashing down with a single betrayal. Sujin clutched her pregnancy test tightly, a rush of emotions flooding her heart. She had always envisioned this moment with Min-jae, her husband, but the scene that unfolded before her eyes turned elation. There was Min-jae, wrapped in a loving embrace with Yeon-hee, laughter echoing through what had been their sanctuary. In that moment, everything she days turned into, but the pain felt fresh. Sujin moved through her life on the thrill of impending motherhood overshadowed. Each kick from her unborn child served as a bittersweet reminder of Min-jae's deceit. The weight of the world settled on her shoulders, even as hope flickered faintly in her heart. Would she have to raise her baby alone? And if so, how would she manage? It was during this tumultuous time that Kang-hoon, the CEO of the company where Sujin worked, unexpectedly stepped into her life. One evening, he arrived at her door, concern etched on his handsome features. "You shouldn't be going through this alone," he said gently, his voice warm and inviting. In his presence, Sujin felt a fleeting sense of comfort. Here was a man who saw her for who she was, not just as a victim of heartbreak. As the weeks passed, Kang-hoon became a constant in Sujin's life. He encouraged her to embrace her creativity and channel her pain into her work. They frequently stayed late at the office, immersed in laughter and brainstorming sessions that made her feel alive again. It was a safe space, a sanctuary where she could forget about betrayal, if only for a moment. Yet, as they grew closer, the line between friendship and something deeper began to blur. One fateful evening, while preparing for her upcoming design exhibition, Kang-hoon looked at her with a newfound intensity. "Sujin, you have to let go of the past to embrace what lies ahead," he urged. As his words resonated within her, she felt the weight of her emotions crashing down. The memories of Min-jae lingered, but the possibility of happiness with Kang-hoon felt equally enticing. Just as Sujin began to see a flicker of light at the end of the tunnel, Min-jae returned, desperate and full of apologies. "I want to fix this," he implored, his eyes pleading. "I want to be there for you and our child." The sincerity in his voice clenched Sujin's heart. Could love survive after betrayal? Caught in a whirlwind of emotions, Sujin's confusion grew. She remembered the love they had shared, the dreams they built together, but then she remembered the pain and her newfound strength. "You broke my trust, Min-jae," she finally said, her voice shaking but resolute. "I can't just forget that." Their confrontation came to a head at the opening of her exhibition, a night that was supposed to celebrate her rebirth. When Min-jae interrupted the event, declaring his love for her in front of guests, Sujin felt the tension in the room rise. "I want my family back," Min-jae shouted, his face a mixture of hope and desperation. "I'll change. I promise." As the crowd whispered with intrigue, Sujin felt cornered. "You can't just demand my love back, Minjae," she responded, tears welling in her eyes. The emotions that ensued felt like a storm brewing, threatening to engulf her whole. In that moment, she turned to Kang Hoon, who stood quietly by her side, offering silent support. He had seen her journey, understood her pain without judgment. With a deep breath, Sujin decided it was time for clarity. "I won't be torn between the past and the future anymore. I have to think of my child," she declared, her voice steady. "I need someone who will bring joy and strength into our lives." The power of her voice echoed in the silence, and with it, she finally felt the shackles of doubt begin to fall away. The resolution came with a dramatic twist. A few days later, Sujin discovered that Yeon-hee's child was severely ill, tugging at her heartstrings. How could she be angry at a mother in need? In a moment of compassion, she visited Yeon-hee in the hospital, realizing how small their petty grievances felt compared to the struggles of parenthood and the fight for a child's health. In that exchange, a sense of mutual understanding blossomed, allowing Sujin to finally let go of resentment. As the climax faded, Sujin embraced the freedom of her new role. She held her newborn close, feeling a rush of love and serenity wash over her. She had made her choice. The support of Kang Hoon had been unwavering, and she understood now that love is not just about moments of happiness, but also about standing steadfast through storms. "Thank you for being here for me," she said to Kang Hoon, a smile breaking through her tears. He nodded, a sense of calm surrounding them both, reinforcing the bond they shared. Join Sujin and Kang Hoon as they embark on a journey filled with love, resilience, and the promise of new beginnings. Subscribe now to follow their story, and don't miss the heartwarming moments and passionate twists yet to come. Love on the edge of betrayal. A new life began to grow amidst a web of betrayal. Sujin stood motionless in her living room, overwhelmed by the turmoil of emotions swirling inside her. She had just discovered she was pregnant, a moment meant for celebration transformed into heartache. The sound of laughter echoed from their bedroom, where Minjae, her husband, shared whispered secrets with another woman, Yeon-hee. The revelation sliced through her, leaving her breathless with shock and betrayal. As the days turned into a blur of confusion and hurt, Sujin tried to make sense of the reality surrounding her. Each passing day felt heavier than the last, as she navigated the conflicting tides of hope and despair. She was torn between excitement for her unborn child and grief for the love she thought she knew. Minjae's relentless excuses pierced her heart. He claimed they had only kissed, that it didn't mean anything. But how could he ask her to accept such a betrayal? In the midst of her pain, her world collided with that of Kang Hoon, the CEO of Sujin's design firm. He was a man of privilege and power, unfathomably different from her modest upbringing. Yet, he approached her one rainy evening, his eyes radiating concern. "You shouldn't face this alone," he said, a sincerity in his voice that caught her off guard. His presence offered an unexpected sanctuary, a feeling of safety she hadn't experienced in weeks. As Sujin opened up to Kang Hoon about her heartache, the conversation flowed easily. They shared stories of their contrasting worlds, her struggles in the bustling streets of Seoul compared to his life of luxury. Each shared moment chipped away at the walls she had built around her heart. She recognized a kindness in him that was absent in Minjae, an attentiveness that felt uplifting when she needed it the most. With every meeting, a friendship blossomed, and soon it turned into something deeper. While working late on a design project, their fingers brushed, sending an electric pulse through her. "I can't be the person who replaces Minjae, but I want you to know I'm here for you," Kang Hoon said quietly, vulnerability lacing his words. Sujin's heart raced. Was she ready to move on from her shattered marriage? Just as hope began to bloom, the past crashed into her present. Minjae barged into the office one afternoon, his expression a mix of anger and desperation. "You think you can just forget about me?" he shouted, startling everyone around. "I'm still your husband, Sujin." The outburst sent shockwaves through her, but she stood her ground, determined. "You broke that bond the moment you chose to betray me," she replied, her voice steady but filled with emotion. The climax of this emotional roller coaster unfolded during Sujin's design exhibition, where she was to showcase her latest work, infused with the heartache she had endured. When Minjae arrived, with Yeonhee in tow, the room fell silent. "You look amazing," he said, attempting to regain a connection. But the sting of his betrayal overshadowed any remnants of feelings she once had. Kang-hoon instinctively stepped beside her, an unwavering support amidst the chaos. "Enough of this, Minjae. If you truly cared for her, you wouldn't have hurt her like this," he asserted, his eyes locking with Minjae's in a showdown of loyalties. Sujin felt a surge of gratitude and fear. Should she embrace this new path, or cling to the remnants of her past? The crescendo reached its peak as Sujin took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "I have a choice now. I can choose happiness for myself and my child," she declared boldly, gripping Kang-hoon's hand. "That happiness doesn't include you." The room was filled with gasps as her words hung in the air. In the days that followed, Sujin diligently prepared for the arrival of her baby, letting hope guide her. She found quiet strength in Kang-hoon, who stood steadfast by her side. With every moment spent together, she recognized the blossoming love she felt in the air. They shared laughter, dreams, and plans for a future she had almost abandoned. As the first cries of her newborn pierced the air, Sujin held her child close, tears of joy streaming down her face. She turned to Kang-hoon, who watched with pride, his heart swelling at the sight. In that moment she realized how far she had come. Love could exist again. "Thank you for being here for me," Sujin whispered softly, her gaze meeting Kang-hoon's, a world of unspoken understanding in their eyes. He nodded, a smile breaking through his seriousness. Join Sujin, Kang-hoon, and their journey of healing and new beginnings as they navigate love that rises from the ashes of betrayal. Subscribe now to follow their unfolding story filled with passion, resilience, and heartwarming moments. When love divides, her heart raced at the thought of betrayal, love lost, and a child to protect. Sujin stood in the doorway, stunned. The news of her pregnancy should have been the happiest moment of her life, yet it was overshadowed by the sight of her husband, Minjae, entangled with another woman. The laughter that echoed from their bedroom cut through her like a knife, leaving her breathless in a whirlwind of emotions: anger, despair, and an unsettling feeling of betrayal. In the days that followed, Sujin found herself stuck in a fog of sorrow and disbelief. Each kick from her unborn child echoed her turmoil. How could she bring a child into a world marked by heartbreak? Minjae, once the man she loved with all her heart, now felt like a stranger who had torn apart their beautiful future with his infidelity. Yeonhee, the other woman, lingered in the corners of her mind, an unexpected rival in a battle she never wanted to fight. Enter Kang-hoon, the affable but wealthy CEO of Sujin's design firm. One evening, as the rain fell steadily outside her apartment, he arrived to check on her. His presence was a comfort amidst her chaos. "You shouldn't go through this alone," he said softly, genuine concern brimming in his eyes. Feeling exhausted from holding up her facade, Sujin found solace in his words. It was a small glimmer of hope in a life that had been turned upside down. As they spoke over hot tea and the sound of raindrops against the window, Sujin opened her heart to Kang-hoon, revealing her struggles. His listening ear and understanding were refreshing, sparking a connection that neither expected. She shared stories of her humble beginnings, contrasting with his life filled with privilege and expectations. Each word built a bridge over the chasm separating their worlds, poor and rich, heartbroken and hopeful. Days turned into weeks, and as Sujin leaned on Kang-hoon for support, their friendship blossomed into a deeper bond. They began spending late nights at the office, fueled by creativity and mutual respect. Kang-hoon encouraged her to channel her pain into her work, urging her to prepare for an upcoming exhibition. Each brushstroke on her canvas created a tapestry of emotion, pain, love, and renewal, and she found a sense of purpose that pushed her beyond the shadows of her past. Just when things began to feel right, Minjae reappeared, desperate to rekindle their love. "I can change, Sujin. I can be the husband you deserve," he pleaded, making her heart race. but the thought of turning back felt suffocating. She looked deep into Min-jae's eyes and saw the man who had betrayed her more than the man she had fallen in love with. "You broke our trust," she replied, her voice steady. "You can't just erase the damage you've done." The climax tinged with tension unfolded during her exhibition. As she stood nervously by her artwork, Min-jae entered the gallery, flanked by Yeon-hee. A hush fell over the crowd, and Soo-jin's heart raced. "I'm here to support you," he said, his voice shaky. But the pain of his past actions loomed as heavy as the paintings on the walls. Kang-hoon stepped closer to her side, a protective presence against the chaos threatening to unfold. "Stay away from her," Kang-hoon asserted, his voice firm, yet calm. The intensity in his eyes spoke volumes. "She deserves better than your empty promises." Soo-jin felt a rush of emotion, gratitude mixed with a lingering sadness for the love she once knew. "I'm not here to choose between you two," she declared, her voice filled with a newfound strength. "I'm choosing a life for my child, one filled with honesty and love." The room buzzed with low whispers as Soo-jin's declaration hung heavily in the air. In that moment, she chose to let go of Min-jae and embrace the future she dared to imagine. As Min-jae attempted to plead his case, reality hit him. He had lost her trust and the chance for redemption. In the weeks that followed, as Soo-jin prepared for the arrival of her child, she found herself drawing closer to Kang-hoon. Their shared moments turned into laughter and warmth, slowly intertwining their lives. He supported her through the journey of motherhood, reminding her that love could blossom again even after betrayal. During a quiet evening as they walked along a tranquil river, Soo-jin turned to Kang-hoon. "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself," she whispered, feeling an overwhelming connection building. He smiled, a warmth filling his gaze. "You're stronger than you realize, Soo-jin. You were never alone." Join Soo-jin and Kang-hoon on their journey of resilience and newfound love as they navigate the complexities of life, heartbreak, and the promise of fresh beginnings. Subscribe now to follow their story and witness the power of love that transcends even the deepest pain. Love through adversity. A secret pregnancy announced alongside a suffocating betrayal. Soo-jin stood paralyzed at the entrance of her apartment, her heart racing. Clutching the small positive pregnancy test, she felt a rush of emotions cascade over her. Instead of joy, she was greeted with a heartbreaking sight. Her husband, Min-jae, entwined with another woman, laughter echoing through the air, mixing with the anguish gnawing at her spirit. Days turned into a blur as Soo-jin struggled to reconcile her excitement for her unborn child with the painful reality of Min-jae's infidelity. The laughter that had filled their home now felt like a ghost, a reminder of the love that had crumbled before her. She wandered through her daily life, unable to shake the image of betrayal from her mind, wondering if she could raise her baby in a world tainted by deceit. Then, unexpectedly, there was Kang-hoon, her boss, the wealthy CEO of her struggling design firm. One rainy evening, he knocked on her door. "You don't have to go through this alone," he said, his voice earnest, concern visible in his eyes. Soo-jin hadn't anticipated his visit, yet the warmth of his presence felt like a much-needed embrace on an otherwise dark day. In their conversations, she found solace in Kang-hoon's understanding nature. He didn't just see her as an employee, but as a woman navigating a complex emotional landscape. As they shared stories over steaming cups of tea, Soo-jin felt herself opening up, revealing her struggles and the dreams she had always held close. They spoke of their vastly different worlds, his luxurious lifestyle juxtaposed with her modest beginnings, forging an unexpected bond that removed the barriers of class. One evening, while painting together in the studio, she caught a glimpse of tenderness in his eyes. "You deserve to be happy, Soo-jin," he said softly, the air between them thick with unaddressed emotions. As days blurred into weeks, Soo-jin and Kang-hoon grew closer, their friendship blossoming into something deeper. Late nights at the office turned into shared meals and laughter, offering her a reprieve from her heartache. But just as she began to find comfort, her past came knocking again. Min-jae lurked in the shadows, calling her and begging for forgiveness. "I made a mistake. We can fix this, Soo-jin," he pleaded in a voice that held both desperation and sorrow. Caught in a storm of confusion and pain, Sujin felt torn. She wondered if she could ever truly forgive Min-jae, knowing the family they had planned for was now tainted with distrust. During one of his visits, Min-jae placed his hand over hers, desperation in his voice. "I can be the husband you deserve." The betrayal played like a haunting melody in her mind, leaving her weary and unsure. The emotional climax unfolded one evening during her design showcase, where she had poured her heart into every piece on display. As the guests admired her work, Min-jae stepped in abruptly, flanked by Yeon-hee. Gasps rippled through the crowd, tension electrifying the atmosphere. "You need to hear me out," he shouted, his gaze locked on Sujin as the hush settled over the gathering. She felt her heart race, trembling at the weight of his presence. "Min-jae, this isn't the place," she replied, her voice a balance of sorrow and strength. "I can't keep living in your memories." But before she could articulate her feelings, Kang-hoon emerged at her side, gaze firm. "You don't get to control her feelings, Min-jae. She is not your possession," he retorted, eyes fiery with intensity. Sujin looked from Min-jae to Kang-hoon, torn but realizing that this was a turning point. In that moment, under the weight of everyone's gaze, Sujin took a deep breath and spoke clearly. "I choose to move forward. I'm having a child, and I want to create a loving home, one where trust and honesty thrive." Min-jae's expression darkened at her declaration, but as she turned to face Kang-hoon, she felt an overwhelming sense of relief. In the weeks that followed, Sujin embraced her pregnancy with Kang-hoon at her side, who continued to step up as a source of strength. He guided her through the tumult, helping her design a nursery filled with warmth and love. Every moment spent together strengthened their bond, revealing the promise of a future filled with hope despite their different backgrounds. On a bright morning, as the sunlight streamed through the nursery window, Kang-hoon took Sujin's hands in his and said, "I'm here for you, always." Emotions swelled within her, and she knew that she had found a man who saw her for who she truly was. As they shared a tender kiss, Sujin realized that love could grow from even the darkest of times. Join Sujin and Kang-hoon on this rollercoaster journey where love blooms amidst adversity, filled with sweet confessions, emotional trials, and a future that shines bright. Subscribe now to follow their story. Don't miss the next episodes filled with romance and heartwarming moments. When dreams collide. Betrayal and joy collided in an instant. Sujin stood frozen at the threshold of her apartment, clutching the positive pregnancy test in her hand. It should have been a moment of bliss, but everything shattered as she caught sight of Min-jae, her husband, entwined with another woman. The laughter that echoed from their bedroom felt like a dagger to her heart, leaving a deep wound that would take time to heal. Days turned into a blur as Sujin grappled with the emotional fallout. Every moment was a painful reminder of what she had lost. Despite knowing she should focus on her pregnancy, she found herself drowning in sorrow and resentment. The plans they had hoped for, family dinners, shared dreams, crumbled under the weight of Min-jae's betrayal. The reality was stark. He had chosen another woman over her. Amidst this turmoil, a flicker of light emerged in the form of Kang-hoon, the charming CEO of the design firm where Sujin worked. One rainy evening, he arrived at her door, his demeanor serious yet inviting. "You don't have to bear this burden alone," he said, concern etched across his face. The sincerity in his voice cut through her despair, offering a glimmer of hope. As time passed, Sujin found herself opening up to Kang-hoon in a way she hadn't expected. They spent countless evenings chatting over cups of tea, sharing dreams, fears, and laughter in her cozy studio apartment. Their economic backgrounds painted stark contrasts, her humble upbringing versus his life of privilege, but these differences only served to draw them closer. "You remind me that life can be beautiful," he said one evening, his eyes soft as he gazed at her, even in dark times. With Kang-hoon's support, Sujin turned her pain into art. She began working on a new collection, channeling her emotions into vibrant colors and bold strokes. Late nights at the office transformed into moments filled with creativity and camaraderie, essential building blocks for a friendship that blossomed into something deeper. Yet, As they grew closer, Sujin wrestled with the guilt of moving on from Min-jae. Could she really let someone new into her heart? The emotional climax approached when Min-jae re-entered Sujin's life, desperate and pleading. "I want to make things right," he declared, his voice trembling with remorse. "I still love you." Standing in her living room, he reached for her hand, but she recoiled. "You think love can erase the hurt?" she countered, her voice steady, yet a storm brewed inside her. "You broke our trust when you chose another." As the tension escalated, Kang-hoon stood nearby, his silent support evident. Min-jae's presence only intensified the dilemma within her. "I've changed. I promise." Min-jae's desperation clung to the air, but the ache of betrayal loomed larger. Sujin felt torn in two, each half pulling her in opposing directions. The next day, hoping to clear her mind, Sujin visited a local gallery for inspiration. Strolling through the exhibits, she was struck by a piece. It depicted two figures separated by stormy waters, yearning for one another. The artist's intent mirrored her struggle. A realization struck her hard. "I need to face my feelings," she whispered to herself, feeling grounded in the moment. In the days that followed, Sujin poured her conflicting emotions into her artwork, culminating in a stunning piece symbolizing hope and resilience. She titled it "Bridging the Divide," a visual representation of her journey towards self-acceptance and healing. When the day of the exhibition arrived, anticipation filled the air. Friends and colleagues gathered, but Sujin's heart raced as Min-jae and Kang-hoon entered the gallery. She felt them both. One was her past, filled with pain and memories, while the other represented her bright future, the promise of unconditional support. Min-jae stepped forward, his eyes pleading again. "Please, can't we talk after this?" But as Sujin took a deep breath, she felt empowered instead of fearful. With a steady voice, she addressed everyone around her. "Art is often born from pain, but it can also signify hope. I've learned that love comes in many forms, and I am ready to explore what lies ahead." Her words flowed like a river, cleansing her soul of lingering doubts. Kang-hoon's approval was evident in his broad smile, anchoring her in this moment of clarity. In the days post-exhibition, Sujin embraced life anew. With Kang-hoon by her side, she found healing. They laughed, explored soul's hidden gems, and shared their dreams for a future filled with love. Every gesture showed how deeply they connected, their bond nurturing her spirit. As Sujin cradled her baby bump one evening under the stars, she whispered to Kang-hoon, "Thank you for showing me what real support looks like. You've given me hope." He smiled, a warm light in his eyes. "I'll be here for you, always." With each passing day, Sujin stepped confidently into her new chapter. Love had not only reclaimed her, but embodied resilience, strength, and a willingness to embrace life's unanticipated gifts. Join Sujin and Kang-hoon as they navigate love wrapped in warmth, laughter, and the beauty found in moving forward. Subscribe now to follow their heartfelt story, brimming with emotional depth and romance that will leave you yearning for more. When love blossoms in adversity, a heart shattered by betrayal, and a life unexpectedly changed. Sujin stood in her living room, stunned, as she listened to the laughter echoing from the bedroom. Clenching the positive pregnancy test in her hand, she felt her world crash down around her. There was Min-jae, her husband, tangled in an embrace with another woman. The joy of bringing new life into the world was eclipsed by the dark shadow of betrayal. The plans, the dreams they shared now felt distant and hollow. In the aftermath, days turned into heavy weeks, dragging her into a fog of confusion and despair. Each heartbeat from her unborn child sent a wave of bittersweet emotion crashing over her. How was she supposed to raise a child alone in a world filled with painful memories? Her heart ached for the love she had lost, a love now intertwined with feelings of anger and betrayal. Min-jae's empty promises replayed endlessly in her mind, spiraling her deeper into sadness. Just when the weight of her emotions became unbearable, hope appeared in the form of Kang-hoon, the CEO of her design firm. One rainy evening he knocked on her door, concern etched in his features. "Sujin?" You shouldn't face this alone, he said softly, his voice warm and sincere. The genuine compassion in his words struck a chord within her, cutting through the haze of her heartache. As days turned into nights, Kang Hoon became a beacon of support. Encouraging her to focus on her art, he helped her pour her feelings into her designs, guiding her through the creative process. Together, they transformed her pain into beautiful creations, each piece reflecting her journey of heartbreak and hope. Their shared late nights at the office soon blossomed into a unique friendship, one that transcended the boundaries of their contrasting lives. Kang Hoon's world of luxury was foreign to Soo-jin, but his empathy made her feel seen in ways she had long forgot. But just as she began to find solace in this newfound bond, Min-jae attempted to reignite their past. He sought her out, desperate for forgiveness. "I made a mistake, Soo-jin. I want to fix this," he pleaded, standing at her doorstep with sorrowful eyes. The anguish within her surged, yet she felt unwavering strength. "You broke our trust, Min-jae. I can't just forget," she responded, her voice steady but cracking under the weight of her emotions. The emotional climax unfolded during Soo-jin's much-anticipated exhibition, where she would showcase her latest collection inspired by her tumultuous experiences. As she stood proudly next to her artwork, Min-jae barged in, with Yeon-hee at his side. "Soo-jin, you need to listen to me," he shouted, disrupting the serene ambiance of the gallery. The muttering crowd fell silent, their eyes darting between the three of them. "This isn't the time or place for this, Min-jae," Soo-jin said, indignation flaring within her. But he continued, desperation coloring his words. "I love you. I need you back." In that moment, the air thickened with tension, and her heart raced. Yet she felt something shift within her. The fight she had kept buried was rising. Kang Hoon stepped beside her, steadfast and protective. "It's clear you only recognize your needs, Min-jae." "What about her happiness?" he asserted, a tension crackling between the two men. Soo-jin turned to Kang Hoon, his presence anchoring her. She gained newfound clarity amidst the chaos. This was her moment. "Love isn't just about declarations. It's about trust and respect. You chose to betray that," Soo-jin articulated, her tone firm while her heart hammered in her chest. Min-jae's expression faltered. The words that followed were powerful beyond measure, resonating with the struggles of love and loss. "I choose to move forward without you," she declared, choosing herself and her baby over a broken promise. As weeks went by, Soo-jin embraced her independence with Kang Hoon by her side. He supported her emotionally and creatively, igniting a passion she thought was lost forever. Each shared laugh and late-night discussion filled her with purpose, healing her spirit bit by bit. Underneath the desolation, a sense of love was quietly blossoming, one that gave her hope as they stepped closer together. One evening, while admiring a painting in her studio, Soo-jin turned to Kang Hoon. "Thank you for believing in me," she whispered, feeling the weight of gratitude lift from her shoulders. He smiled, warmth dancing in his eyes, and replied, "You are stronger than you realize, Soo-jin. You have the power to change your future." In the tranquility of that moment, Soo-jin understood that love had not abandoned her. It had merely taken different forms. With every passing day, she grew more assured of her choices, excited about the future she was creating for herself and her child. Join Soo-jin and Kang Hoon as they navigate a heartwarming journey of healing, love, and new beginnings. Subscribe now to follow their emotional story, filled with hope, laughter, and the sweetest moments waiting to unfold. Love Across the Divide. In a heartbeat, everything changed. Betrayal lay at the threshold of new beginnings. As Soo-jin stood in her living room, the positive pregnancy test trembled in her hand. A promise of joy turned to ash. The laughter spilling from the bedroom stopped her cold. There was Min-jae, her husband, lost in an embrace with another woman. The reality of his betrayal hit her like a freight train, leaving her breathless and heartbroken. Days turned into a numb blur. Soo-jin struggled to reconcile her excitement for motherhood with the devastating knowledge of Min-jae's infidelity. Each day she felt the bittersweet ache of her unborn child, kicking, serving as a reminder of a love that had dissipated. Memories of laughter and shared dreams echoed in her mind, overshadowed by the presence of Yeon Hee, the woman who had stolen her husband's affection. Just when the weight of despair became too heavy, a flicker of hope arrived in the form of Kang Hoon. He was the CEO of her design firm, a man born into a life of privilege, yet grounded by humility. One rainy evening, he knocked on her door, concern etched across his handsome face. "You don't have to face this alone, Soo-jin," he said, his voice steady and warm. This unexpected support ignited a spark within her that she thought had long extinguished. As the days turned into weeks, Soo-jin found herself leaning on Kang Hoon. He encouraged her to channel her pain into her art, guiding her through the creative process. Their late nights at the office transformed from mere work into heartfelt conversations and laughter. The contrast of their worlds, his lavish lifestyle and her modest upbringing, created a dynamic that was both intriguing and comforting. Kang Hoon listened attentively as she revealed her struggles, and his empathy bridged the gap between them. On her most vulnerable days, he was there. One evening, while working late, Soo-jin shared her fears. "What if I can't do this alone?" she whispered, tears spilling onto her canvas. Kang Hoon's expression softened, and he reached out to comfort her. "You're stronger than you think, and you won't be alone. I'll be right here," he replied, embodying the safety she longed for. But just as their bond deepened, Min-jae reappeared, desperate for forgiveness. "Soo-jin, I can't lose you. I made a mistake," he implored, standing on her doorstep with uncertainty and regret. In that moment, her heart waged war between the familiar warmth of love and the bitter sting of betrayal. "How can I trust you again, Min-jae? You shattered my heart," she responded, her voice trembling but steady. The next week, a dramatic climax unfolded during Soo-jin's much-anticipated exhibition, showcasing her latest collection, a reflection of her pain and healing. As guests admired her work, Min-jae stormed in with Yeon Hee, pulling attention away from her art. "We need to talk," he shouted, commanding the room's attention. A mix of shock and tension hung in the air, the whispered speculations from the crowd echoing around them. Soo-jin's heart raced as she faced him, but Kang Hoon quickly stepped beside her. "This isn't the time for your theatrics, Min-jae. She deserves peace and respect," his tone unwavering. The tension escalated as Soo-jin's pulse quickened. She felt empowered by Kang Hoon's support. "Min-jae, you broke my heart and shattered our trust," she began, standing tall. "I can't be the woman you want me to be when I've lost the woman I was." Her voice trembled with emotion, but her resolve only grew stronger. With every word, she felt the weight lifting from her shoulders, making room for clarity and strength. After the chaos as the crowd dispersed, Soo-jin found a moment of quiet reflection. Kang Hoon approached her, his expression warm. "You were incredible in there. You showed real strength," he said, admiration shining in his eyes. In that moment, Soo-jin realized she had found a partner who understood her pain and celebrated her resilience. In the days that followed, with Min-jae's presence fading in her rearview mirror, Soo-jin embraced her path to healing. Kang Hoon became her soundtrack of positivity, igniting her passion for art and life anew. They shared laughter, late-night conversations, and dreams for the future. Together, they began to paint a new canvas filled with hope. One evening, as they sat beneath a canopy of stars, Soo-jin turned to Kang Hoon. "Thank you for showing me that it's okay to love again," she said softly, feeling the warmth of his hand intertwined with hers. "You helped me find my way back to myself." Kang Hoon smiled, his eyes reflecting compassion. "And I'll be here every step of the way." Join Soo-jin and Kang Hoon as they journey through pain, redemption, and the awakening of love against all odds. Subscribe now to follow their heartfelt story, filled with emotion, romance, and the strength that defines what it truly means to love. A love written in the stars. A pregnancy announcement collided with the shards of betrayal. Soo-jin stood paralyzed at her apartment entrance, pregnancy test clutched in trembling hands. Instead of joy, she found herself engulfed in heartbreak as she witnessed her husband, Min-jae, wrapped in the arms of another woman, laughter pealing from the bedroom like a cruel reminder of the life they had shared. Days morphed into a dull haze of sorrow and disbelief. Each step within their once happy home now felt like stepping on shards of glass. The tiny life growing within her was a beacon of hope, but it was overshadowed by Min-jae's deceit. Every kick from her baby felt like a reminder of the love she had lost, a family that was falling apart before her eyes. Just as her heart was fighting for a flicker of hope, Kang-hoon, the charming CEO of Soo-jin's design firm, unexpectedly entered her life. One rainy evening he knocked on her door, concern shadowing his handsome features. "You shouldn't bear this alone, Soo-jin," he urged, his voice a soothing balm to her shattered spirit. There was a warmth in his presence that felt true, so different from the facade Min-jae had maintained. Soo-jin found herself more at ease with Kang-hoon than she had imagined. They began to spend evenings together, discussing art, dreams, and life. Despite their different worlds, Soo-jin's humble beginnings clashed beautifully with Kang-hoon's polished elegance. He brought laughter back into her life, something she hadn't realized she'd been yearning for. With each shared moment, Soo-jin felt a connection she hadn't anticipated. She opened her heart to him, sharing the depths of her pain and uncertainty about motherhood. "I thought love was forever," she confessed, tears glistening in her eyes as she painted during one late-night session at the office. "How could I have been so wrong?" Kang-hoon listened intently, nodding. "Sometimes love is not enough if trust is broken." His voice was calm, yet it resonated powerfully with her. "You can rebuild, Soo-jin, but it has to start with you." His words hung heavily between them, igniting the sparks of something beautiful and new. Yet as Soo-jin began to find happiness again, the past came crashing back. Min-jae knocked on her door, desperation written all over his face. "I made a mistake, Soo-jin. I need you back." His words shook her, leaving a swirl of emotions in their wake. "How can I ever trust you again?" Soo-jin's voice trembled, yet she found her footing. "You shattered my dreams, Min-jae. I need to think about my child now." The conflict and tension peaked at her design exhibition several nights later. Soo-jin had poured her heart into her latest collection, inspired by her struggles and newfound determination. As she stood by her artwork, basking in the glow of applause, Min-jae barged into the gallery, a storm brewing behind his eyes. "We need to talk," he shouted, causing murmurs to ripple through the crowd. Kang-hoon was instantly at her side, his presence a steady anchor. "Not here, Min-jae. This is Soo-jin's moment," he said firmly, glaring at Min-jae. Soo-jin felt the weight of the world shift. She could feel the support radiating from Kang-hoon. Suddenly, she wasn't alone in this fight. "Why are you making this so hard?" Min-jae pressed, voice cracking with desperation. "You're throwing away everything we built together." With her heart racing, Soo-jin took a breath, gathering strength. "No, Min-jae. You threw it away when you chose to betray my trust. I won't let your mistakes dictate my future." Her declaration was met with a heavy silence, a finality to the words that resonated in the air. The emotions surged, and the crowd felt the tension, quieting as they waited for Min-jae's response. But he fell silent, as the depth of Soo-jin's resilience washed over all of them. In that moment, she knew she had made the right choice. Weeks passed, and Soo-jin settled into a new routine. Kang-hoon remained by her side, supporting her as she embraced motherhood. They shared late nights filled with laughter and creativity, painting a shared future that seemed brighter with each passing day. Kang-hoon's kindness and understanding illuminated a path of hope for her and her child. One day, as they strolled through a beautiful park, Kang-hoon turned to her, his expression sincere. "I never thought I'd find someone like you, Soo-jin. You inspire me." She looked at him, heart swelling. "You've shown me that love can exist again, in ways I never expected." Their hands entwined, a feeling of warmth and belonging blossoming between them. In the days that followed, Soo-jin felt ready to take the next steps, not just for herself, but for the burgeoning family inside her. With Kang-hoon's unwavering support, she embraced the love that had grown in the shadow of heartache. Join Soo-jin and Kang-hoon as they navigate the trials that come with rebuilding and discovering the transformative power of love. Subscribe now to follow their emotional journey, filled with hope, laughter, and the beautiful moments waiting to unfold. Fate against all odds. A secret pregnancy revealed in the wake of betrayal. Sujin stood in her kitchen, her heart racing as she held the positive pregnancy test, her world spinning out of control. Just moments before, she had caught her husband, Min Jae, in a compromising position with another woman. The laughter that filled their home could only be drowned by the tidal wave of betrayal now crashing over her. Days became a blur of grief and anger for Sujin. The tiny life forming within her was a bittersweet reminder of dreams shattered and a future that felt impossibly bleak. Her once happy home now felt cold and empty, every corner echoing memories of love and trust now poisoned by Min Jae's choices. The weight of resentment dragged her down, making it hard to breathe. In the midst of her despair, something unexpected began to stir when Kang Hoon, the affable CEO of her design firm, entered her life. He knocked on her door one rainy evening, concern written all over his face. "You shouldn't face this alone, Sujin," he said earnestly, warmth filling his eyes. For the first time in days, she felt the blocks surrounding her heart begin to crack. Kang Hoon's quiet strength and genuine kindness slowly drew Sujin out of her shell. Over cups of steaming tea and late-night discussions, they connected over their shared passion for art. He admired her talent and protective nature, while she found comfort in his unexpected presence. Their worlds felt like opposite sides of a coin, her humble beginnings juxtaposed with his polished, affluent life. But their bond grew stronger with every shared moment. And then, one fateful evening, a chance encounter shifted everything. Sujin and Kang Hoon were working late at the office when they overheard Min Jae on a phone call in the hallway. "I need her back. I can't lose Sujin," he said, desperation thick in his voice. The raw admission cut through Sujin, igniting a fierce inner turmoil. Could she ever forgive him? Gathering her courage, Sujin stepped into the hallway. "What do you want, Min Jae?" she confronted, her voice firm. The tension crackled in the air as Kang Hoon stood beside her, offering silent support. Min Jae looked at her, eyes pleading. "I've realized how much I've messed up," he said. "Can't you at least give us another chance?" "Chance?" Sujin echoed incredulously. "You destroyed everything we built!" Anger surged within her as she fought back tears. In that moment, she realized her heart was no longer tangled with Min Jae's. She turned to Kang Hoon, who stood quietly, strength emanating from him in waves, reinforcing her resolve. The climax approached with an unexpected twist during Sujin's exhibition, where she revealed her latest collection, works created from her pain and healing. Kang Hoon, brimming with pride in her talent, attended the event, but the atmosphere shifted when Min Jae walked in, flanked by Yeon Hee. Sujin's breath hitched as she saw them. Min Jae strode toward her, but Kang Hoon was already at her side, looming protectively. "Not now, Min Jae. This is Sujin's moment," he said, his voice steady. The gallery filled with tension, all eyes on the trio. Min Jae opened his mouth to protest, but Sujin stepped forward. "You don't get to define my moment any longer," she asserted, tears shining in her eyes but anger boiling within. "You chose to betray me, and I refuse to be anyone's backup plan." A profound silence enveloped the gallery. The confession hung like a weight in the air, and for the first time Sujin chose herself. She felt the warmth of Kang Hoon's hand on her back, a powerful reminder of her strength and growth. As the crowd filled with whispers and murmurs, Sujin found solace amidst the chaos. Leaving the past and embracing her new future felt like an awakening, and as she shared her story through her art, she realized the healing had begun. The days that followed saw Sujin flourish. With Kang Hoon by her side, she nurtured her talent and embraced impending motherhood. Their bond blossomed into something beautiful, as they spent evenings under the stars, laughter weaving between them and soft whispers filling the air. One evening as they stargazed, Kang Hoon turned to her, his gaze sincere. "You've changed my life, Sujin. You've shown me how powerful love can be," he said, touching her hand gently. She smiled back, feeling the warmth of possibility envelop her. "And you've helped me see that love can heal, even after the worst pain." Join Sujin and Kang Hoon on their journey through love, heartbreak, and the unexpected joys that emerge from both. Subscribe now to follow their touching story, filled with hope, passion, and all the heartwarming moments that await. Love in unexpected places. A single moment can rewrite a life forever. Sujin leaned against the doorway, her heart shattering as she clutched the positive pregnancy test. Instead of joyous anticipation, she was met with the laughter of her husband, Min-jae, echoing through the apartment. Her heart sank as she caught a glimpse of him entwined in the arms of another woman, Yeon-hee, their shared intimacy a cruel reminder that love could so easily betray. In the days that followed, time dragged painfully slow. Each soft kick from her unborn child brought a fresh wave of bittersweet emotion. The once vibrant colors of her world dulled, leaving her in shades of gray. Memories flooded her mind. Romantic dinners, whispered promises, but those cherished moments became ashes in the wake of Min-jae's betrayal. How could she bring a child into a world that had so cruelly shattered her heart? Just as the weight of despair threatened to consume her, Kang-hoon appeared, an unexpected beacon of light in her tumult. The CEO of her design firm, he radiated a quiet strength that intrigued her from the very first meeting. One rainy evening, he stood outside her door, concern etched into his handsome features. "You don't have to face this alone, Sujin," he said, his voice warm and genuine, like a comforting hug in the storm of her emotions. As they spent more time together, Sujin discovered solace in Kang-hoon's company. Their late-night conversations flowed effortlessly, each shared laugh breaking down the walls that her pain had built. He was attentive and caring, the exact opposite of the man who had betrayed her. Through his encouragement, Sujin began to channel her hurt into her art, pouring her soul into vibrant colors on canvas. "I never realized how much healing could come from creation," Sujin admitted one evening, her brush dancing across the surface. "You've reignited something within me that I thought was lost." Kang-hoon looked at her, admiration gleaming in his eyes. "You were always capable of this, Sujin. You just needed to believe in yourself." But just as she began to embrace this new chapter, Min-jae returned, desperation written across his face. "I made a mistake," he belted out one day, standing on her doorstep. "Please give me another chance." Sujin's heart raced with conflicting emotions. Could she ever forgive him? A heated confrontation ensued, their words echoing like thunder, filled with lingering hurt and unresolved feelings. "You think love alone can fix this?" she spat, anger and grief mixing within her. "You broke my trust and shattered our dreams." Each accusation hung heavy in the air, carrying the weight of their shattered relationship. The emotional climax occurred at Sujin's art exhibition, where she unveiled her latest pieces, artworks crafted from her journey of pain and healing. As guests admired her work, Min-jae barged in, accompanied by Yeon-hee. The tension in the room was palpable as their presence disrupted the evening. "You won't turn your back on me, Sujin," Min-jae shouted, bringing the event to a standstill. Kang-hoon positioned himself in front of Sujin, steady and unyielding. "You no longer have any claim over her, Min-jae," he stated defiantly, eyes ablaze with the protective instinct that surged within him. Sujin stood frozen, torn between her past and the present. "Enough!" she shouted, the authority in her voice silencing Min-jae. "You had your chance. I'm moving on for myself and my baby." Tears welled in her eyes, her heart pounding but resolute. Every eye in the room turned to her, and the air thickened with palpable tension. A hush descended upon the gallery. Min-jae's expression faltered as the weight of her words struck home. In that moment, she realized just how far she had come. She was reclaiming her narrative, embracing the love she had almost lost. In the days that followed, Sujin flourished. With Kang-hoon's unwavering support, she crafted a new life filled with creativity and passion. They explored the city, shared dreams, and built a connection that surpassed anything she had ever known. Kang-hoon's gentle presence felt like home, and each moment together deepened their bond. One starry evening, as they walked hand in hand, Kang-hoon turned to her, his eyes filled with warmth. "You've taught me so much about strength and passion," he said softly. "I never expected to feel this way." Sujin smiled, a wave of warmth radiating from her heart. "Thank you for being my light in this darkness." As they stood beneath the sky scattered with stars, Sujin knew love had returned, but this time it was different, stronger, deeper, and built on trust. Join Sujin and Kang-hoon as they navigate the intricate dance of love, pain, and rebirth. Subscribe now to follow their heartfelt journey, filled with passion, laughter, and the sweet moments that remind us of what is truly important. Hearts apart, lives entwined. In a swirl of betrayal, a new life blossomed. Sujin stood at the entrance of her apartment, disbelief coursing through her as she clutched the positive pregnancy test tightly. It was supposed to be a moment of euphoria, but instead, she had stumbled upon the most heart-wrenching scene. Her husband, Min Jae, wrapped in an embrace with another woman, laughter echoing in a space once filled with love. Days passed like a painful haze, each moment stretching her sorrow. With every flutter of her baby's movements, memories of shared dreams and laughter felt tainted. The weight of abandonment settled deep in her heart as she traced the roots of her trust back to a love now replaced by anger. Min Jae had shattered her faith, and the thought of raising a child in a world filled with deceit felt unbearable. Just as the heaviness of grief threatened to swallow her, the unexpected warmth of Kang-hoon entered her life. He was the CEO of her design firm, a man who seemed to float above his problems in a world of affluence. One evening, he knocked on her door, genuine concern etched across his face. "You shouldn't face this alone, Sujin," he said softly, and the kindness in his voice broke through her fog of despair. Kang-hoon quickly became a source of comfort and light. Their late-night conversations, the shared laughter in moments of vulnerability, began to fill the void within her. As Sujin painted her feelings on canvas, she found herself leaning on Kang-hoon's support, a connection blossoming in the most unexpected of circumstances. They often worked together late into the night, an arrangement that allowed her to rediscover her passion. "Art allows us to express what we can't say," Sujin remarked during one of these sessions, feeling a spark of life return to her. But just as their lives started to intertwine, Min Jae returned, determined to win her back. "I want to fix this, Sujin. I love you," he cried one evening, his eyes desperate. The conflicting emotions stirred inside her, the loyalty to their past warring with the pain he inflicted. "Love doesn't erase betrayal, Min Jae. You destroyed everything," she replied, her voice steady, yet filled with sorrow. The tension escalated when Sujin prepared for her exhibition, where she would showcase her latest collection, the culmination of her healing journey. Min Jae and Yeon Hee appeared at the event, drawing the attention of the crowd. Just as Sujin began to feel a wave of panic wash over her, Kang-hoon stepped protectively by her side. "This is about Sujin and her art, not about you," he stated firmly, drawing a line in the sand. In that pivotal moment, as all eyes turned toward her, Sujin felt her heart pound. "No, Min Jae, you don't get to dictate my life anymore. I'm moving on, focused on my child and my art." The clarity of her words resonated loudly against the backdrop of uncertainty, solidifying her resolve. Min Jae's expression shifted from desperation to a mix of anger and realization, the tide of their relationship shifting irrevocably. Weeks passed, and amidst the chaos, Sujin's life began to flourish. Encouraged by Kang-hoon, she blossomed personally and creatively, rediscovering her love for design. They shared laughter, deep conversations, and moments of tenderness, building a foundation for their connection that felt both unfamiliar and comforting. One starry evening, while strolling through a park, Kang-hoon turned to her, his emotions spilling forth. "You've changed my life, Sujin. You've opened my eyes to what really matters." His gaze was earnest, filled with a warmth she hadn't realized she craved. "I never thought I could feel this way again," he admitted. As Sujin looked into his eyes, she recognized the uncharted territory they had navigated together. "You've shown me that it's okay to love again, that life can be beautiful even after heartache," she replied, feeling a rush of warmth envelop her. The gentle connection blossomed into something deeper that evening, surrounded by the glow of streetlights and the soft rustle of leaves. For the first time since her world had fallen apart, Sujin felt at peace. ready to embrace the possibilities of the future. Join Sujin and Kang-hoon as they explore the intricacies of love, healing, and the unexpected beauty life can offer after trauma. Subscribe now to follow their journey, full of passion, laughter, and heartwarming moments that will leave you yearning for more.